Jon, being here recording Smart Drivel is Jim Dandy.
It makes me think of, wasn't there an ice cream sundae at Baskin Robbins, maybe called the Jim Dandy, perhaps at Friendly's? I want a Jim Dandy right now. Hey, Kurt, I have gone back to using my standing desk for standing after sitting at my standing desk for the last several years, but it's time to stand up again. Notice this picture behind me, which is a Field of Dreams
Not really.
interpretation. It looks like it's
No.
crooked, doesn't it? You don't see it going down like this? Maybe it's just on my self view, but it's driving me crazy. So I went out and I bought a little hand level because when things are like not lined up, I guess I have a little touch of OCD. So I keep going to
Yeah.
measure, well, not to measure, but to make sure it's level, and it's perfectly level, but it
Jon,
is, and
before we jump into things,
it just
I've been
doesn't. This
using
just
the
feels
phrase
right.
Jim
So
Dandy all day because it just popped into my head and I thought it was just apropos for so many things. Where does it come from? Where did we
you're a
get it?
happy kind of guy, so Jim Dandy is the kind of thing you would say. There must have been a guy
Well,
named Jim
I'll
Dandy
tell you,
or a
Jon,
kind
because
of
I
guy
did a
that was
little
referred
research.
to as a Jim Dandy.
What does it mean? It could be.
When something's
Yeah.
Jim Dandy, it's funny because someone's
Well, I
not
think it
Jim
originally
Dandy.
meant a
Something is
person
Jim
or a
Dandy, right?
thing of
Someone can be
exceptional
a Jim
quality.
Dandy. It's funny because I've only used it to describe a situation, which is strange because it's
Yeah.
clearly a
Well,
name and it sounds like a male name,
yeah,
Jim
something's
and
top
all.
notch, a real standout. That's
So it means
Jim Dandy.
that's good.
Its roots go back to the American South in the early 1800s, where dandy already meant a stylish or impressive man. Adding Jim intensified it, much like saying
And it
the
still
real
does.
deal. By just like doubting
Intensify.
Thomas, Johnny on the
So
spot, or that famous British expression, Bob's your uncle. Yeah, Bob's your uncle? Yeah, yeah.
that's British. So it's funny because, of course, those are all male
But
names,
wait,
and
before
of
we do
course,
it, like,
that's
I
part of
just
the
want to
patriarchy.
continue.
But that's not what we're going to take
No
on
one is
today. But you
entirely
have
sure
something else
why
to
Jim
share.
specifically was attached, but
Well, please.
linguists, those who study language, think it may simply have been a common male
Especially
name used
cunning
rhythmically and
linguists.
memorably in slang. But the phrase exploded nationally after the wild
I was
popular folk song. Guess what it was called, Jon? Correct. The song itself was adapted
Jim
from an
Dandy.
even older African American folk refrain, Jim Dandy to the rescue. It Have you read this? Because in
Sort of
those
a
versions, Jim
old-time
Dandy was a
superhero
kind of
kind of guy.
mythical, swaggering hero figure who always showed up to save the day. Yeah, I
I
don't think
mean,
so.
I
But
don't.
then it sort
And
of
what
like
did
petered
Jim
out
Dandy have a
until
weapon
I
of
didn't know
choice?
this. Ha ha! Wow. Surely you must be
Ah,
joking,
petered out.
Roger. So anyway,
Stop
um,
calling me Shirley. So Roger Dodger rhymes. Doubting Thomas feels rhythmic because it's got the same number of syllables. Jim
okay.
Dandy
Well,
doesn't
but
really
guess what?
strike me as
In
terribly mellifluous or
1973,
memorable.
the Southern rock band
It
Black
is.
Oak, Arkansas. You remember those guys? Yeah. Oh, really? Because they played at my
I
bachelor
know
party.
them.
That's
Of
funny.
course, they played it
They had a
already.
huge hit with the name of the song was. Yes, it was. So, and
Jim Dandy.
they're crediting People Know It Today
All
from
right.
that
Well,
song, even though
we
we don't
are.
know who Black Oak, Arkansas is. But Blue Swede, who sings what? It's Blue Swede. Sorry, Blue
I
Swede
only know
sings
of
what
blue
song?
suede shoes from Elvis Presley.
Yeah, Blue Swede is
Suede does mean
73
sweet
men
in
sailed up
French.
to the San Francisco Bay. They rowed off to the ship, and here's what they had to say: "Ride, Captain, ride upon your mystery ship."
Well, I'm glad they were not on the
Never want to
something
hear that
the
song
Edmund
again.
Fitzgerald. I hope that wasn't the same crew.
But you're Jim Dandy. I'm Jim
That
Dandy. This is Jim Dandy.
is a wacky song. So listen, we are
Yeah.
Jim Dandies, or are we Jim's Dandy? Jim Dandies, I guess. Jim Dandies. In any event, Kurt, would you tell me the
Yes.
first few lines of Journey's Don't Stop Believing?
Yeah. Who caught a train to nowhere?
Just a small town girl,
Not Detroit. South Detroit.
born and raised in. That's right. Do you know what is sort of
Journey.
jokingly referred to as South Detroit because of that song? No. Do you know what place is jokingly referred to as
Yes.
South Detroit because of that song?
St. Louis.
It's a place south of Detroit, just giving you a hint.
The Windsor Ballet.
So Windsor, Ontario is referred to as South Detroit jokingly because of that song, but not just because of that song, but because Windsor, Ontario is actually south of
Canada,
Detroit. What
gentlemen.
country is Windsor, Ontario a part of? That's right. So Detroit is actually north of certain Canadian territories. And I tell you this because you and I are fans of little geographical oddities that just seem like they're not right, even though they are. And our regular listeners over the years have heard us talk about
Yep.
what
Maine.
U.S. state is closest to Africa. Do you remember, Kurt? Maine, which surprises most people. We've also talked about the fact that New York City is actually north. I'm sorry, is actually south of
Yeah.
Rome, because we don't think of it that way. We think of Rome as being down there, but Rome is actually north. So we like these
That the
kinds of
Nile
things,
River
and I
flows
dug up some more of
upstream,
them
south
for
to
us.
north. That really screws you up because it's an anomaly, but it screws. And when
Why
you
does
look
it
at
do that?
people that like they have in the
Does it
past
not believe
of
in?
Egypt's historical eras, you talk about where they were they, upriver or downriver, and that is different than when we think it. It's kind of like when I moved to Los Angeles, I couldn't get used to the fact that the water was west because growing up, the water's always been east. And so I was like, we got to go west. And they're like, into the water?
Yes. I agree completely. Whenever I'm in California or someone says, "Hey, could you ever live in?" The answer is no for the simple reason. Well, there's two reasons. One is 3 hours. I would feel perpetually 3 hours behind the rest of the world.
But
But
John,
more to your point,
guess
the
what?
ocean is on
On
the
Sunday
wrong side
mornings
of
in
the
the fall,
street. It just
football's
seems
on at 10.
unnatural to me. Yeah, and that also strikes me as odd because that's just too early. Now, it's nice because when the games are over, you still have some of your day left. On the other hand, if your team loses, then you have more
I'm
time
ready.
to suffer about that loss. So I'm going to give you some new ones.
Okay, I'm ready.
This one's going to hurt your brain. I don't think I'll form it as a question, but you'll assume the answer because it has to be the odd answer. Although, of the questions I'm going to ask you in this episode, some of them may just be plants to keep you honest. So this could be a plant. Is the city of Atlanta closer to Canada or Miami?
Canada. But that,
It is
but you know
actually
why?
closer to Canada than Miami. How about that? Yeah, I do because it's closer. Atlanta's in the north part of the state, and the Canadian border dips down further than we think, reference the Detroit comment of a couple minutes ago.
Yeah.
But do you have some other reason other than
Canada
it's
owns an
closer
island in
to
the
Canada?
Caribbean, which is right off of Atlanta.
Okay.
And so it's part of the Canadian nationality.
Yeah, well, not only is
Okay,
that
you
not
said
true, but
Canada.
I was referring to the Canadian border, so I'll be more precise in my there's no question about it. All right. You know this one, and this is just one of this is sort of a classic one that Reno is actually west of Los Angeles. But
Well,
that's a
and
brain
here to
breaker
take
for
one
many
step
people.
further.
You got to look at a
So
map and go, could that
farther,
possibly
well,
be
you know
true?
what? Farther and further, because I mean it both exactly. My
You're
parents
developing
lived
the
for many
point and
years
you're
in Santa
making a
Barbara,
point
as
about
did my
distance.
grandparents, my uncle, etc. After
Before they moved east or after? Because I know your dad lived
my
in Santa
parents, yes,
Barbara. Okay,
they
so this was
retired there
after
in
they lived
1998.
in
Uh,
Westchester.
the coastline there is
Got it. Beautiful
east-west.
place.
No, and so they say it mirrors
In
the
Santa Barbara
Mediterranean coast
specifically?
because it's and you think,
Yeah.
which is also, by the way, our coast here in Connecticut, because when you drive 95 north, it's actually 95 east. Right.
East. Yeah, it's mislabeled
And
and
that's why the
that bugs
Nile
me.
screws you
But I
up.
think they
That's what I
pretty
was saying
much
before.
just
It's
stick north and
downriver
south on
or
that.
upriver, and you think upriver should be north, but it ain't. It's south. Right.
Yeah. Here's one for you. Canada is currently
It's oh
starring
Canada,
in our
not hey
episode.
Canada.
So, hey Canada, and I'm referring. Oh Canada is a beautiful song, a beautiful national anthem. I'm referring to the Canadian border. And to continue our theme
Yeah.
of Canada,
Are we, John?
I don't get poutine. I mean, I love French fries. It's one of life's great joys, but having them all wet and soggy with bean curd or cheese curd on top, cheese curd on top, I know it is a delicacy, but do you like soggy, wet French fries, Kurt?
At 3 in the morning after pounding 11 Canadian beers? Yeah.
Yeah, okay. There's obviously more to it than I
Yeah.
understand, and I also don't know that I've ever had poutine, but there's nothing appealing, at least sounding about
I
it.
had them after going to the see the Dire Straits in Montreal in 1985.
Mark Knopfler.
Yes. Okay.
Money for nothing and chicks for free. All right, so Canada. All right, so have you been to Brazil?
Negative.
Have you been to Canada?
Yes.
Okay, so that's good. I haven't been to Brazil either. So the northernmost part of
Mhm.
Brazil is actually closer to the Canadian border than it is to the southernmost part of Brazil. Brazil must be one tall ass country, Kurt.
Okay. These are great, John.
You sound like you're being
No,
sarcastic.
look, I
I
would
love
read
this
them
stuff,
on
Kurt.
Dixie cups as a kid.
There were riddles like those were usually just like riddles. Did you have geography facts on there?
I don't know what I had. Yes, of course I did.
Hey, so you were just in Slovenia. What is the poutine of Slovenia? What's the national snack or dish?
It is goulash. So,
Okay, is what kind of goulash? Beef goulash, lamb
well, I
goulash?
had lamb, I had veal goulash. Uh, Walker, I went with my son. My son wanted to go. We were lucky enough that I could go on vacation with him. When anytime your almost 30-year-old son says, let's go on vacation, you jump on it. He wanted to go, I found out though, because he wanted to get 30 countries before he turned 30, and this was the 30th one.
Wow. Have you counted the number of countries you've
There's
been
an
to?
app, yes.
Okay, and how many
I
countries
think
have
it
you
said
been to?
45.
I need to do this. I think I'm in the 40s
Funnily,
myself.
in the Trotters, when they would, the players, they would talk about they've been to 100 countries. And I said, oh, can you tell me
Right.
some of them? He said, well, we've been to Italy 8 times and we've been here. I said, but that's not 8 countries.
They counted Italy 8 times. And for the folks who are listening who have not listened to every single episode, so for the rare one out there that has not listened to all of them, Kurt was the CEO of the Harlem Globetrotters for about 10 years, so he knows a lot about the Harlem
So
Globetrotters.
Slovenia, yes, I do. Slovenia, an amazing country, part of the former Yugoslavia, formed in 1918 until 1992. Tito was the dictator. This was
Oh, the vodka
this
guy.
was Croatia, Serbia, Bosnia, uh,
What about Herzegovina?
Herzegovina,
Hertz
right?
Hertz Herzegovina? We should know how to pronounce that country's name,
I've been
Kurt.
there. I should. It's one of my
Hertz
countries.
Hertz I can't.
But anyway, incredible country. one of the places we went to, which fits with the poutine, the reason why I'm bringing this up, is a loyal listener of ours, Lisa, said, if you're going to Slovenia, you have to go to this restaurant.
Okay, I just want to acknowledge the beautiful alliteration there. A loyal listener named Lisa. Well
And
done, Kurt.
Lisa is
I love
she's
that.
a basically foodie blogger influencer. And she said, there is a restaurant, happens to be a 3 Michelin star. You have to go. The chef was voted the most outstanding female chef in the world 2 years ago. So I went, and I bring this up because she has and employs a forager full time. Most of the things we ate were because of the forager who foraged for them. And you had
Wow, you were just letting me rip with the
in one
alliteration.
of them, there was 15 ingredients in a tiny little thing. I asked the chef afterwards. This was, by the way, we had the wine pairing. I had a lot of grappa, so I was a bit loquacious. I asked her,
Hang on. Your premise is that the reason you were
otherwise I'm
loquacious
not.
was
Yes.
Papa. Otherwise, you just would have been there quietly in the
Silent
corner.
cow.
This is still level, by the way.
Silent cow, Cal Coolidge. So I asked her, how do you make something with 15 ingredients that small taste great? And she said, it just happens. It's kind of like an artist that puts stuff and you never know what it looks like. Then you put it on the wall and it looks beautiful.
I think if you put lots of ingredients together in a small thing, they could be very small ingredients. I bet you there are more than 15 parts in a watch, and a watch is small, but I wouldn't eat it.
And the taste was fantastic, all of these. But Slovenia castles. But what I want to get to later is it made me realize because it's not discovered by Americans yet to the extent, obviously, like Rome is. It's not
Yeah, Croatia.
infested, yes. The
Infested.
difference between the way people go to travel, right? Different cultures in different countries. The French and the Germans travel much differently than the Americans. And I want to get into that because sadly, the stereotype of the rude, obnoxious American still exists. But anyway, go ahead.
Well, say something interesting or fun then about that topic.
Well, okay. So Americans, I think, the ugly American tourist stems from our hubris that we got after World War II when we were the only superpower left standing. And people decided we didn't need to learn languages. We just spoke louder. We didn't need to do this and this. And we didn't have to get into, we don't accept and go into the local nature of it. Whereas the French certainly
We
do.
bought into the whole notion of American exceptionalism.
But and we don't try, right? We want our 5-star rest a hotel to look just like the one we can get in St. Louis and San Diego, and we don't try. And I'm speaking generally, of course, there are people are, but you look at these other cultures and these people don't mind schlepping from place to place or doing this or they don't get upset about it because it's part of the experience. And I think it is because Europeans specifically are all together and they've been forced to be together and close together the whole time and they just deal.
Yeah, I think in many ways, I mean, obviously we were lucky to be born when and where we were, but I also think people who were born in Europe, where the countries come fast and furious, the countries and the languages and the cultures, and it's quite common for a European native to speak multiple languages.
And when we travel, we don't try. Again, we expect them to come to us going out to restaurants, well, wait a second. Why don't I have this? Or why don't I have that? It's the way I have it when I'm in
I think it's a
Milwaukee. Guess what? You're
problem.
not
I
from
think it's a
Milwaukee.
problem if we expect everybody to speak English and we expect everybody to do things our way. That's not how the world works, and it's obviously counterproductive to think that way. So listen, Kurt and I have gone through a wardrobe change for those of you who are watching on YouTube.
Story, John, about the Globetrotters, because I think it encapsulates a lot of what we've been talking about.
Right? Fire
So
away.
during the Cold War, right?
Yes.
For our audience, you want to give us a rough years we're talking about
I
here?
think from the end of World War II to the late 80s, 87, the wall came down, or 87, the wall came down?
89.
89.
So we are now at the height of the Cold War. I'm talking 1962, around 61.
Not a great time for communist architecture.
Well, no, there was never a good
No,
time.
it was a good time for it's almost oxymoronic, communism and architecture.
Look, if you like stucco, then you're in good
They
shape.
call it brutalism.
Well, that's not even brutalism, but yes, brutalism was done artistically, and I think it's tongue in cheek if you call that brutalism. Anyway, so America and Russia, the two superpowers, locked in this Cold War. They hate each other. Someone put a dog on the moon first. That's Russia. They got a man in space first. That's Russia. We were
You got
about to put a man on the moon
Sputnik.
first, but we
Yeah.
had
There
yep,
was a
right.
whole military, political, all sorts of craziness going on.
So somehow between our State Department and Khrushchev, it gets decided that the best way to show the world that these two countries can maybe get along is to have the Harlem Globetrotters go to Russia.
Yes, I mean, ultimately, the Harlem Globetrotters are the bridge between cultures that have brought peace and prosperity around the world to previously warring countries.
What is the nickname of the Harlem Globetrotters? I'll give it to you. The Ambassadors of Goodwill.
And that was assigned to them
So,
by the Globetrotters themselves, or was that applied to them by
no,
some
no,
observer?
the US government.
Ah,
So anyway, U.S. government sends the ambassadors goodwill to Russia. There's this whole tour. They're going to all these different towns, and they end up in, I believe it was Moscow. And it is 2 in the morning. Khrushchev was coming to the game. Everything's happening. 2 in the morning or 3 in the morning, they get woken up out of their Spartan hotel beds, which of course they couldn't
definitely
fit
too
in because they were
short.
very tall. And yeah, they get woken up. They're told to go right away. They got in a bus in the pitch black. They
In the
had no
middle of
idea
the
what's
night?
going on. Yep. They get into a door that opens up a dark hallway. They have no idea. They can barely see. It's 3 in the morning. And all of a sudden, the next door opens and it's bright light. And they are in the top stadium in Russia. It is filled with 15,000
In the middle
screaming
of the
fans.
night?
The Russian national team had already been warming up for an hour, and they said tip off is in 1 minute.
So they decided to surprise the Globetrotters by waking them up in the middle of the night so that the Russian national team would have a better chance of winning. And how does this lead to
Exactly.
international peace and prosperity?
I'm getting there. They thought if they could beat the famous Harlem Globetrotters, then truly they are the superpower.
Right? That's basically the
And
same
they
behind the space race. Primacy.
100%. That's why this is totally analogous. So they warm up, they say, "Beep." They made one huge tactical error, John.
They forgot the
They
basketball.
did they did not fully understand that the Globetrotters, for a factor of about 10 years in the summer when they traveled, and this was in the summer, used to travel with a young man by the name of Wilt Chamberlain.
Right? And Wilt really made his name not by scoring 100 points in an NBA game, but by his overnight basketball practice, which made him a great player.
The guy scored 60 points, I think, that night, and they absolutely demolished the Russians. And you never heard
Why do they call it a Cold War, Kurt?
because it was hot.
No, you know why it's a Cold
Oh,
War.
I know. I thought you were doing the curly thing, so I was trying to stay with you on your
Please
metaphor.
don't
I
try
don't
to
know
stay
what you were
with me,
doing there.
Kurt. You could be injured.
Try to be on the same
You
parallel.
could be injured.
It was called the Cold War for one simple reason: nuclear arms.
Oh, isn't a hot war when we're shooting at each other? And isn't a Cold War when we're at war but we're not shooting at each other?
Yeah.
Okay. So we've touched on a lot of geography during this here episode, and I've got another geographic. It actually involves geology too, but we're not going to go that deep.
I'm
I'm ready.
ready.
You ready for another geographic oddity that you're going to find fascinating, and you're going to go as soon as you're done hearing it, wow, I'm really glad that I know that. I feel enriched, and I can't wait to share it.
So this is not a multiple choice that I have to
So this
guess.
is just a factoid. Actually, you know what? Let me turn it into a question because I know how much you enjoy that. The topics
I
of
do.
the question are Greenland, which has
Yes.
been in the news a lot the last year or so, and
Yep.
Iceland. I believe you've been to Iceland, yeah?
I have. And by the way, I was flying Lufthansa back from Europe a few days ago, and on the little map on the airplane, they called it just island.
Okay. Well, The Germans can be somewhat utilitarian, I guess, at times, and it is an island. Maybe that's what they call it. So
Who needs the ice?
we've both been to Iceland.
Never have enough ice, John. Never have enough ice.
You know what our listeners love the most? Highlights. Okay,
I know.
so this is about the relationship between Greenland and Iceland. Here is my question. You ready? Is Greenland further north than Iceland? Or is it further south? Or is it further west or further east than Iceland?
West.
That is that is true, but it is 1/4 of the answer. In an incredible geographic oddity, it is all of those things. It is north, south, west, and east of Iceland. How cool is that?
Very
You know what
cool.
would be great here? A picture. I don't know if I can show you the picture though on this whole situation, but I will try. It's all of those things. I think that's cool. Greenland is further north, south, east, and west than Iceland, yet it doesn't surround it. Looks like your brain is hurting.
I was trying to see if there's another example of that with other countries.
Oh,
But those
no.
are ones that are surrounded.
So, are there other countries that are north, south, east, and west? It's an interesting question.
Well, Italy is off of Vatican City.
Yeah, but that's more of a, that's right. It surrounds it.
You know what is kind of cool and interesting? All the rage right now in the enophile world is Georgia.
Georgia. I have read about Georgia recently. Seems to be having an up moment. Have you ever been to Georgia?
No, but it's because of its wine. Besides everything else, its beauty and everything else, but it's the oldest winemaking country in the world.
I thought, does that mean wine was invented there?
Could be.
Otherwise, why would
Could
it be
be.
making, hey, Italy invents it and somehow Georgia gets to do it first? That seems odd. So it must have been invented there.
Yeah, I don't think Italy did. I
I
mean,
was just
and I
using
don't
an
know what they were
example of
doing.
another country besides Georgia.
Well, I mean, you could go back to Babylon and Mesopotamia. They certainly had wine. I know they had mead. The
I know,
Egyptians
but if
certainly
you
had
said
it. I
it's
know
the
they had mead.
longest standing, all right, listen, I think we got to wrap this sucker up before we need another wardrobe and background change, Kurt.
Okay, fair
All
enough.
right, so thank you for joining us. Hopefully you learned some fun geographic oddities and some of Kurt's fun travel logs. And we'll be back for another brand new episode of Smart Drivel before you know it.
All right, everyone. I look forward to it. Travel well, travel smart, and travel curiously, please,
know.
in a nice way.
There's a lot to be said for curiosity being the start of many good things, although probably not for a cat. All
Definitely.
right, take care.
Bye, everyone.